Hey, this is Seth with In Demand Career. I show people how to get life-changing jobs in digital marketing with no previous experience or education. And that includes my very special guest today, Andrew, who was working at Target, I think making about $12 an hour when he found my course. He got an entry-level job, and I actually did an interview with him 2 years ago. And now he has worked his way up in his career and is a senior analyst at an agency. He actually, one of my other students who I interviewed, he is their boss. So Tito. So this is very exciting. He is now making $75,000 a year working remotely, so much more than he was at Target. He loves his job, and I'm very excited to share his story with you. Thanks for being here, Andrew.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Seth. Always happy to be here.
Awesome, man. So why don't you tell people a little bit about your current job that you have right now?
Yeah, current job is actually one of the biggest media agencies in the country. Super big company, super big agency, lots of learning, lots of opportunity, and I couldn't be happier.
That's so great. And when you say it's super big, like, can you, I mean, whatever you feel free sharing, like what kind of accounts are you working on, or maybe just the budgets, like what kind of budgets are you working on?
Yeah, budgets, it differs month to month, but roughly around 800 to 850,000 a month. Yeah,
That's amazing.
a little over 10 million a year. Yeah.
Wow. That's real serious budget. Remember, guys, well, we'll get into that in a second and think about what you were doing when you found the course. And what are you making at this job?
75,000.
That's
Yeah.
so great, man.
Yeah.
I'm so happy for you. And it's fully remote, right?
Yep, all from my bedroom.
And where do you live and where's the company based?
I live near San Diego in California, and the company, they actually have two headquarters, one in Los Angeles and then one in New York City.
Right. And actually, guys, this is very interesting. Andrew's working at the same agency where Nick Battle, my PPC coach, used to work. And yeah, and as I said, I just interviewed Tito, who's also working there. We'll get into that in a second. So yeah, man. So this is really exciting. So why don't you, and I'm going to put a link below this video to the first interview I did with you. And what's so funny is I remember you were so happy to be making, I think like 30, the first agency job you got was one of those where you say turn and burn. It was like, it didn't pay that well, but I said, stick with it for 6 months, get that experience, leverage up. And you were so happy. And now you're making like twice what you were making there. So, but
Yeah.
you, tell the people at home, what was going on in your life when you first found the course a couple of years ago?
Oh man, I was knees deep in retail. I was a stock boy. It was not fun, you know. I mean, all respect to people that work retail, just definitely wasn't for me. I just wasn't making enough. I was miserable day in and day out. You know, you wake up and it's just like, I don't want to go to work. I don't want to be here. And yeah, it was just a real low point. I think everyone can relate to that.
Definitely. I've definitely had a whole like 10 years of my life like that. I think a lot of people can relate. Why don't you show people the proof of your employment? Do you have your name tag?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm telling you, I'm the real deal here. Look at that. Yeah, it's dirty now.
It's like a souvenir. So yeah, so okay, so you're at this, working retail. We all know retail and like hospitality are very difficult, jobs. They don't pay well. And so what happened?
I was just hopping from one retail job to the next, trying to find my way. College was not working out. Just really feeling like, like I'm screwing up, and just overall lost. So I was just going down the YouTube rabbit hole of, possible high income jobs, and I just came across one of your videos, and I watched about, I did. I watched all of your testimonials. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna take the risk, and I'm gonna sign up. And I mean, yeah, the rest is pretty much history.
That's fantastic, man. And it is history, but let's walk people through the history. So you sign up for the course, you're working so obviously you don't have a college degree, you don't have any experience in digital marketing. How did you go from like being in the course to getting that first job? How did that go?
Yeah, so did the course, did everything you said, You said take it twice, took it twice, built their own website, directed ads to that website, pretty much everything you said to do. For me personally, it was actually a little hard to find that first entry level job. So what I did was I took an internship for a couple months and got a really awesome letter of recommendation. And I feel like that definitely helped me secure that entry level job. Just having that proof behind me, like, hey, this guy's a hard worker. He's trustworthy. He's honest. And yeah, I landed that first agency gig.
That's so great, man. And if you guys watched the first interview, like what was it like getting this first job for you? How did that feel?
I was running through my house, man. I was so happy. I was just so happy because it felt like a new chapter. It really did. It felt like I could put all this retail, all the personal failure that I attached to myself in certain endeavors. I had a chance to start over again. And I did.
That's interesting. And how old were you when this happened, when you got the first job?
Oh, geez.
Just 2 years ago.
24, 20, 26, 25, 24. Yeah.
You guys, I just want to address something that you said. I'm in my 40s, but I remember my 20s, and I grew up before you guys, before the internet. I remember I lived in a world where not only did I feel like a failure in my early 20s, because I had gone to this prestigious college and all these expectations on me. I went to film school and all these things. And then I came out with the same problem most of you guys have. I had no practical guidance. And back then it was funny because like all there was the classifieds. We didn't have the internet was still brand new. So literally it was just a newspaper and there'd be like 5 job postings, and they were usually terrible, like office jobs. But one of the things I thought was really interesting, I look back now being in my 40s, I was like, how could I have thought I was a failure when I was 24? And I think you guys, it's even worse now with social media. You guys have this weird, it's not imposter syndrome. It's almost like the opposite. It's like you have this pressure.
Mm-hmm.
You have this crazy expectations of what you're supposed to be doing in your 20s. And I was like, dude, you had 16 years of school where you didn't learn anything. You're just starting out. I get people who are 20 years old who are like, I feel like a failure. I'm like, you're 20. Like you literally are not even a year into your adult life. You're 24. This is the time to be learning, making mistakes, and growing. So I think it's really important that you kept pushing and you found this shift. But I would say, obviously retail isn't great, but it doesn't mean you're a failure. And I just want to say that to anybody listening. If you're in a bad job, I was in my comparison, guys, I worked these types of jobs. I did work in accounting. I waited tables. I delivered pizzas. I was a pool boy. I did all sorts of terrible jobs. I had the same internal conversation, but I did that till I was 33. So if you guys are in your 20s, or if you're older, it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean you're a failure. And then, as I say, I'm so excited because when we did that first interview, you were just starting, and now we have this new perspective. But at the time, what were you making at that first agency job?
30K. Yeah.
Which, as you know, in California is very little.
Yeah.
But what were you making at Target?
12 an hour.
Right. So you were so excited. What I remember, you guys went through. I'm so happy that you were so grateful for this new job. And it wasn't just the money, I could tell. It was, you said, a new chapter, new stuff. What was it like working at this agency, working on actual accounts every day? What was the work experience like compared to working in retail?
Whole new world. It was intense. Had to learn on the go. But extremely beneficial. That I feel like that first job, you just make so many leaps and bounds in that entry level position. You're learning all the terminology, you're learning how things run, you're learning from people that have years of more experience than you. So, if you can just be that sponge and just soak it up, you make really big strides in efficiency and just overall skill.
Yeah. And that's what I teach in the course, is for guys who have said, I'm not here to give you 1,000 hours of training in theory. I want you to get that first job. But what was it? Since you have so much experience now, for people watching who don't know what these jobs are like. So like in Target, you're obviously like stocking shelves and doing a lot of really mindless manual labor. In this job, where you're working on Google Ads accounts, like how much ads are you? How much of a budget were you managing? Like, tell us a little bit about what we were actually doing.
Yeah, sure. So in the beginning, they started me off at around like 100K of ad spend. When I left, it was at about 250,000. I worked both in Google and Bing user interfaces. So I was doing a lot of imports from Google to Bing, or from Google to Bing. A lot of pacing, daily pacing, scripts, in particular budget cap scripts, updating specials, a lot of navigation of the Google Ads editor for bulk uploads, because it was a lot of accounts that had regular specials, weekly and monthly. And then building client reports. That was I would say definitely the hardest part of that was building client reports and presenting. Presenting was hard for me to get a hold of that in the beginning.
Then you got better at it. So you just, I mean, for people who haven't taken the course, I know this may sound a little bit like may not make sense. But basically he's talking about is you're in, remember guys, all these jobs are in Google Ads. Google's making billions every year. And companies need people like Andrew to manage that advertising so that it's actually effective. And so what he was doing, like budget pacing, means basically making sure that your client's account is spending at a reasonable pace. They don't blow all their budget in 2 days. Uploading is changing ad copy if a company has a special or a sale. Some of these retail companies, I mean, if you're managing $100,000 a month, they may have dozens of ads, and you have to change the ad copy and upload new ads. And this is stuff you learn about in the course, and then now you're getting this hands-on experience. And this agency, I'm really saying, they hand you $100,000 in your first month. Your first, that's what happened to me. That's how I got into this field. I had no experience, just like you, and they handed me all this ad spend, and I was like, what? Because there's so much money being spent, and there's so few people that know how to manage it. And then Andrew gets trained on the job. As you said, it's an intense work environment. He's learning as he's going. He's not being paid as much as he would go on to get paid, but that's okay, because other kids are in school paying $60,000 to learn nothing. You're actually getting paid. And then the presenting is another thing. I know a lot of people are nervous about that in the beginning, is talking to your clients about their accounts. And this is a great public speaking communication skill that you'll develop. Mm-hmm. I've had even the most introverted people come into the course, and as they get more and more comfortable with digital marketing, they become more confident speakers. And I'm sure that's what happened to you. Like now, when you talk to clients, you're very confident, right?
Super confident. It's night and day. It's like anything else. You just have to do it enough times to where you don't feel nervous anymore. And then, just turn that anxious energy into excitement. It's the same emotion. It's just that your perspective on it.
Absolutely. And it happened, it comes with time, because like I said, so let's go, now we're going to go into the transition in your career, which is something I'm excited to share with everybody, because and people always ask me, like, how long does it take to make this much money? I say, dude, this is a predictable pattern I've seen over the last 7 years, which is that entry-level job, 30 or 40K. 30 is honestly on the lower end, but that's okay. Second job should be around 50. And then your third job, you should be in 70. And that's exactly what you did. And I remember you were working at this agency for a long time, actually. How long did you work there?
The first one?
Yeah.
Almost a year.
Yeah.
About 8 or 9 months. Yeah.
So I actually reached out to Andrew. I don't know if you remember this. And I actually told you, like, you need to get a new job. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
I don't know how it came to my attention, but actually, it's funny. This agency, you guys can look it up. I don't want to throw any shade on anybody, but I'll say, it's a great first job. Like you said, you're getting so much experience, and that experience, again, guys, to leverage to your next job. So nobody, like when people take this, like, oh, I want to make $100,000 in 1 year. No, you start out at an entry-level job, and then you leverage up. But places like this, the agencies like this do exist. And I always tell people, look, get your experience and get out. You're not your recruiter, but like the head of HR, somebody reached out to me. I don't know if you know that.
No.
Because I had sent them, like, about 4 people from the course were working there, right? Like, I don't know if you remember that, right? Do you remember some of your coworkers?
Yes. Yeah. No, actually, no. Yeah. I remember. Yeah.
So they said, oh yeah, you've got a lot of good students. And I was like, yeah, I'm happy to keep sending you more students. But then they said, well, we're not retaining them. They're not staying with us. And she asked me for advice. I felt bad. I said, you have to pay more. That's the advice. So after Andrew had been there for a while, I was like, dude, you've been there too long, man. 6 months at a company like this that's underpaying. You say, thank you so much for the experience. I really appreciate it. Now you move forward. So then you find, 9 months later, you did tell people about your next job and how that happened.
Yeah, the second agency, it just kind of happened, when Seth reached out and be like, you need to really start looking for another job. You're underpaid, you're being undervalued. I took it to heart. And I started looking, and they're out there. The jobs are out there. They're everywhere. Um, it feels like it's just the industry just getting bigger and bigger. Advertising as a whole feels like that. But yeah, I found an agency. I started at 55K, which if you thought I was excited at 30K, you can imagine how I felt at 55K. I think I just blasted music in my room for like a good week. I was jamming. I was so happy because I mean, you have to like, I was 25, like $55,000 at 25. I didn't really even know what it was, just so surreal. And I was so ecstatic. Um, yeah, I mean, even to this day, it's really hard to put that emotion into words.
Yeah, man. I think you did a good job. I mean, it's especially, I mean, I said you came from, you don't have a college degree and you'd only had this experience with, you'd struggled with retail and stuff. And I know just like going from such a low place to such a high place is like, yeah, it's hard to describe. But I'm happy you made that transition. And I'm curious, at this agency, were you doing kind of similar things? Were your job responsibilities the same? Did you have a different title? And what was the work-life balance at this agency compared to the first one?
Well, yeah, that was the biggest shift, right? Because I made it very clear that I wanted that work-life balance. Just because the first agency it kind of reminded me of like Hell Week, like you get really good, but it's gonna hurt. So the work-life balance was great. A handful of accounts, they had it to where, each analyst gets 3 accounts, no more. Because they were noticing that too. Is like, we want to retain. We don't want to burn our people out. So let's make it profitable and let's give them, some structure that they can grow on. So that was great. But yes, similar experience, just less workload. Googling Bing accounts, did a little bit of social media ads, some Facebook, some LinkedIn, kind of all over the place though. It really got away from the search niche, and kind of branched me out in a lot of places.
That's great, man. And you see, guys, as you grow in your career, every job is going to give you a little bit more clout and credentials for your next job. And I'm really happy that you took it upon yourself to really command that work-life balance. And guys, that's what I tell you guys in the course is whatever anybody else has said. And I've had people come to me with negative experiences in the industry. Usually they didn't take my course or they don't understand how to position themselves. And I say, look, there are these good companies and companies that understand what you're saying here. The good agencies understand that they need to treat their employees a certain way because you guys are high value employees. It's like I said, you're like highly paid athletes. They need to treat you well because if they don't, you're going to leave. There's a very high turnover in this industry, not because of it's a bad industry, but because people get poached from other agencies. And that first agency, like I said, you just have to know what you're dealing with. And when sometimes people come to me and say, hey, this agency is going to pay me, this amount of money, and it's not enough. And I said, if you can live on it, it's fine for 3, like you said, Hell Week, like work your butt off for those 3 months. Now, suddenly your LinkedIn and your resume says you've managed $100,000 a month. Now recruiters are going to come at you with those higher paying jobs. Perfect. Leapfrog to the next job. Next job, you go, I don't want to work that hard. Or, which you shouldn't. I mean, we're still working hard, but you're not like, burning out.
Yeah.
So what was the culture like at both of these places? Were you getting support? Were there people you could ask questions to if you had questions and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, even at the more hectic agency, there was always someone to lean on. It wouldn't make sense for them to throw a novice into the fire with no direction. At that point, you're definitely putting client relationship in at risk. So yeah, there's always someone to lean on for guidance and just overall direction.
Awesome. And so what happened in the second job? It sounded like you liked it. You were getting paid like a great amount of money for you, and you had a good work-life balance. So how did you end up transitioning from that job into your current job?
Yeah, and well, I kept that same mindset at the first agency. just because I had a lighter workload didn't mean I was, I didn't take my foot off the gas. I was still grinding. I was still learning everything that I could. Just as cliche as it sounds, getting 1% better every day. And just making myself more valuable. I think that's the key, is just to make yourself a valuable asset, and then what you want, surprisingly enough, will come a lot sooner and easier than you think.
That's very well said. I like that, man. Your vibe. I think this would be really cool also for people who are watching this interview to go back to the first interview and note the shift in your being and how you present yourself. But you were super excited in the first interview, and it was great talking to you. But now you're obviously more confident, and so. But how did this job come about? Tell us about that, like, and the hiring and all that.
Yeah. Well, it was the second agency. It was a smaller agency. Great people, great learning experience. Love them. But it was a smaller agency, and as my skill set was growing, I noticed an opportunity to get paid more. So naturally, I took it. I talked to a recruiter, and he set me up with a couple interviews at different places. I found one that I really loved, and I still love very much. I'm very happy there. And yeah, now I honestly feel like I found my home agency. I don't see myself really going anywhere else.
That's great to hear, man. And how was that? So you said you had a recruiter. So did the recruiter reach out to you, or did you? Yeah. This is what happens, guys.
Yeah, just slid in my DMs.
Yeah, you're gonna get approached by recruiters as you build your skill set. And why is that? Because these recruiters get paid when you get hired. So your recruiter got a nice big check when you got hired by this agency. And when you interviewed for this 75K position, like, how was the interview process? And by the way, I did want to ask you this. You're very well established in your career now, only 2 years in. Did anybody ever ask you about your college degree or having a college degree?
Once, yeah. One interview out of, I don't know how many, 20 plus interviews. Yeah.
Right. And these guys who hired you, obviously, did they care that you don't have a degree?
I mean, no. First off, no. But when he asked the question, it was like he was reading off a script, like it was kind of, like a required question for him to ask. But as far as needing a college degree, it is obsolete. Definitely not needed.
Absolutely, guys. I love that every interview we do where someone says that. I think we're just chipping away at this really outdated and destructive idea that, young people need to spend 4 years building debt and learning nonsense to have a career. And you're a great example. You're a great skip college for success example of that. Making a great salary, working remotely. And you're in a management position. As I said, you guys watched the video I posted, and by the time this is published, it will be up, of Tito. So Tito is a student who got a job a few months ago, and he's telling me all about the agency and how great it is and stuff. And then he's like, "Oh yeah, my supervisor took your course." I was like, "What?" So how did you learn that you had both taken the course?
Yeah, so I'm one step above him. I'm a senior analyst. He's an analyst. And we were getting to know each other, his first couple of days, building that rapport up and just, saying hi to the new employee. Especially he's gonna be working on my account with me. So we got to talking, and I was like, "So, how'd you get started?" And he said, "Oh, I took a course." And then like alarm bells went off. I was like, "Wait a second, which one?" And he's like, "Do you know digital marketing group?" And before he could finish, I was like, "No way, you know Seth?" And he was like, "No, you did too." I was like, "Yeah, we're like Seth alumni. We got to stick together, man."
That's so awesome. I love hearing it from your side too, because he basically told the same story. But and then it was funny because I was like, "Dude, that's crazy. I just got in touch with Andrew. We're gonna talk." And then we put this interview together. I love it, guys. When you get into the field, I'm always moved by that. It's very organic. I don't plan this. I don't know how it happens. But again, I think it just speaks to the fact of the value of the skills and the fact there just aren't that many people that have them. Did you ever imagine when you're working at Target, you would not only be making this much, but supervising people?
No. No. Short answer, no. Long answer, definitely not And if so, maybe when I'm like 36 or something.
Yeah, guys, this is the thing you have to understand about this field and these skills, whether you take my course or not, just be getting these skill sets. If you look at the typical college graduate, I have the statistics, the underemployment rate is so high. That means people work in jobs that didn't even require a degree, like customer service, sales, and technically these job postings say degree required, but as you can see, they don't. But what you'll look at is the mid-career median salary. And to get to 75K, guys, most other fields, people are working, 10 years to get to that salary. And unfortunately, I've met people in like healthcare, which is one of the worst fields. I just say that based on my experience, I've known people working for 10 years making 35K in those fields. When you are coming out of high school, you're not taught about salaries and what's a good salary, a bad salary, what's, obviously you don't know anything, nobody knows. It's not taught in school. 75K at 26, you're 26?
27.
27 is incredibly high salary compared. There's people, older than Andrew that are not making that. I never made that when I was in my 20s, man. I think I'd made like what you were at 35 or something, or maybe 40. So I think it's fantastic. I'm really proud of you. I totally knew, you see it in the interview. I think before I was like, dude, this is just the beginning. You're going to get a better job. And you were just like, I'm so happy to be making 30K, So it was really fun to see. And I'm curious too, how is it to be managing somebody? Like you're the boss, you're somebody's boss in a way. How does that feel?
It feels, I mean, I can't really describe it. It's a new experience, right? So I would say exciting would be the first word I would use, because it's a brand new experience. But at the same time, kind of familiar, because when we're analysts, when we first start out, we're not the only analysts just starting out. You have coworkers that are going to be with you, it's their first day as well, and then you're going to be helping them and they're going to be helping you. So you're kind of, it is new, but it's also familiar in a way.
No, I love what you just said, because you're saying it's very natural. You've been part of a team since you got into this field. And now it is a very natural thing. Like you see, even in sports, people who've been a player, they become like a leader on the team captain, and they become a manager. It's a very seamless transition into leadership, because it's not like you had to take, again, people go to get an MBA in leadership and it's not worth anything, but you've actually had the hands-on experience. Very natural for you to understand how to help a junior, because you were that junior before. Exactly. And it's just amazing what you've done in just a couple of years, guys. I'm really inspired. I think you guys should really be inspired by that, because it's like, again, guys, imagine, I was like, if you had spent 4 years getting that college degree, man, I mean, you would have just wasted so much time, and it's the wasted time and the money that always still gets me like fired up about this. Because I was like, dude, look at what somebody can do in 2 years with these skills. Like, not only are you making a ton of money working remotely, you've developed as a person. I can see that on your face. You're a leader, you're confident, it's just so much better than sitting in a classroom. And then as we wrap this up, why don't you tell me, like, how has this affected your life, having this career? I think you were telling me something about your dog, or an expense that came up that would have been really, really difficult back when you were working at Target.
Yeah. Well, as far as my retainers getting destroyed, you can take it up with this gentleman right here. That is Oliver. He is a terrier corgi puppy that we rescued. But like all puppies, they find a way to get into things they shouldn't. And he cost me close to $1,000 in retainer damage. Twice he got him. If I was working at Target, that it'd probably be like, well, I guess I'm going without a retainer for a couple months. But now when these things come up, even getting a smog check, normal things like getting your registration, it's just not that big of a deal anymore. And when you can offload that, there's a freedom that comes with that. Financial freedom. Things that used to be a big deal aren't that much of a big deal anymore. I don't have to stress over every little penny, and I can, just kind of live my life that less stress free.
That's very well said, man. That's what I really like. I really want for people, because I remember what that was like. I remember, I was even as extreme as sleeping in my car or working at, say, minimum wage jobs. And then at that point, it's hard to even have like a big goal in life because you're worried about the basics. I said if there was like your car, if you had a problem with your car at that point when you're working these low-paying jobs, it's a huge stress. And one of the beautiful things about having a good salary is that it's like it doesn't money doesn't buy happiness, as they say, but it can buy you some stress, less stress in your life. And you said we rescued the puppy, so how, I was wondering how it's affected your relationships, or who are you referring to with the we?
Oh, just my family. Yeah, we were as broken up as we were with some of our dogs passing. Enough time passed, and this poor little guy was just left on a dirt road. And we saw him at the shelter, and now he's a little troublemaker in the house.
That's beautiful, man. That's really awesome. I have a couple of friends who are really passionate about that, and obviously makes a big difference in your family too. And so I'm just curious, like, how has your family responded to all this drastic change in your career and this new job and all that stuff? What do they think?
One of the responses I got was, "Oh wow, you have a real job now." That was one of the responses. And like just picking up the bills at dinner, they're like, who is, like, are you you're like a man now? And I'm like, I have been, what do you mean? But it's like, doing these things that just being, just picking up dinner and paying for things when I don't have to, for your loved ones. I don't think I mean, sure, there can be better feelings, but for me, that's one of the best, is just providing for your loved ones. And I couldn't do that before. I mean, I could, but not nearly to the extent I am now. I didn't have the money.
Yeah, man, it's very well said. I remember, I think I've said this before. I think and I wasn't even making close to what you're making, but I think one time I took my parents out to dinner because I actually had a job, and they were so thrilled. I think I took a picture of my mom's face because she was so excited that I had paid for dinner. Because for me, it was even more. I mean, because I said I was always so broke when I was younger, and it's hard for people to believe sometimes. But we all come from humble beginnings, and that is a really wonderful feeling. And in our culture, I know we do I think we do put a little too much emphasis on money. And somebody said you're a man now, and it's not what makes your job isn't what makes you a man or a woman or an adult, but it definitely is part of it. And as I said before, I can just see it on your face. You just look more mature and more grounded as a human being. And the fact that you're making a good salary is just icing on the cake. So this is fantastic, man. I really appreciate you sharing your story with us. If people want to ask you any questions, can they reach out to you on LinkedIn?
Yeah, 100%. I am a little busy, so I'll do my best to get back to you. But yeah, if you have any questions, reach out.
That's so great, man. And as we wrap up, I just want to ask you, is there anything you want to say to me or anybody watching the video who's considering the course?
Take it. If you think this is something you want to do, even if you're unsure about it, take a risk. I feel like that's where a lot of people just kind of get stuck in the positions where they feel like they don't want to be, is they're really afraid to take that jump. And I've been there. It's really scary. It's scary not knowing what to do and to put your trust into something. But I mean, how many testimonials do you have at this point? Like,
There's a lot. They keep coming in.
Yeah. So if you want to take an educated risk, try the course. And if you stick with it, through the hardships and the initial stress that comes with starting anything new, it's a life changer. Just want to thank you, Seth. I really appreciate everything you're doing. You really are changing people's lives. It's kind of crazy how, I mean, Tito now, and it's just like, I got nothing but love for you, man. Really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure, man. Yeah, very well said about everything too. And as we say, guys, I mean, one of the reasons that Andrew's had these results is because he worked very hard. He pushed through doubt and difficult times. It didn't happen overnight, and it's one of the differences between my course and some other courses out there. Is I try to give you guys realistic expectations. This is it's not an overnight thing. It takes months and a lot of hard work. You're building a skill set, but if you bring every one of my students who's brought that attitude and continue to do the work gets the results. And you're perfect example, and I'm really excited that we could follow up with you to see your progress. I think people are going to have fun watching the previous interview and this interview too, because I think it gives a real clearer picture of the path that you're on, and that where you've come to and where you were. So, Andrew, thanks again for sharing your story. I'm so happy for you, and definitely let's stay in touch. And I'm excited to see where you go next.
Yeah, I can't wait. Well, I'm sure we'll do another interview down the road, and let's see where this path goes. Can't wait. Super excited.
Awesome, man. All right, I'll see you later.
Thanks. Bye.